Hello, friends of the show, and welcome back to Ride Buddies, a podcast that brings you conversations between some of cycling's most interesting, knowledgeable, and entertaining personalities. There's no host, no rigid structure, just great conversation. All right, episode 3, 2 truly incredible and inspiring women. You'll hear from Rebecca Rusch, dubbed the Queen of Pain, which we gotta say, talk about a power nickname. You'll also hear from highly decorated paracyclist Megan Fisher. These two women have spent their careers completely redefining what people are capable of. Together, they share a lengthy list of world titles, Paralympic medals, Guinness World Records, and even an Emmy Award. Rebecca and Meg talk about overcoming obstacles, finding strength in the struggle, winning races in order to pay for groceries and keep their health insurance, crushing a male ego or two, and of course, Betsy the Wonder Dog. It's the type of conversation that only these two could have, and it's very much worth a listen. So saddle up and tune in, you're in for a great ride. And if you're enjoying Ride Buddies, don't forget to subscribe.
Hi. How's Idaho?
Idaho's great. How's Montana?
It's good. It smells a bit like a campfire, but we have mostly clear skies. So it's pretty cool to meet you so seamlessly. We're in the same time zone, but mountains between us.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually cool. So for those listening, Meg and I know each other. We run in the same circles, similar circles, but we've never sat down and had a conversation like this. So what a pleasure. Thank you.
I think the pleasure is all mine. I've followed your career. I think a lot of people, again, listening will say that you've influenced them. And so to get to sit here and be like, and ask you questions, and it's pretty darn awesome.
It's cool. Yeah. And of course we met at a bike event. Like all good friendships that happen is we met at Rebecca's Private Idaho when you came for the first year, which was, I don't know, 4 years ago? 18.
Yeah, I think 2017 or 18. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, you've been back ever since. And I'm looking forward to riding with you again in a few weeks here.
Definitely. Yeah. I think we chatted for a brief minute on one of the SRAM ambassador calls. That was one of the things that I looked forward to each week during COVID, is when all the SRAMily would come together. And thank goodness for media like Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess that we're supposed to do rapid fire questions. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
You ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I guess I love how she's just like, I'm going first. Okay.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Hesitation is elimination.
Okay.
Right? French fries or tater tots?
Tots.
Whitewater or gravel?
Gravel.
Why not whitewater? Oh, that's a conversation. Okay, sorry. Okay. Snow or pavement?
Snow.
Ooh. Single track or gravel road?
Single track.
Suspension, no suspension?
Suspension.
Dog or cat?
Dog.
Heeler or no dog? Like,
Heeler.
Is it have to be a cow dog or no dog at all? Are you so dedicated to your cow breed that you're like
mutts? I love mutts.
Okay.
Okay, those are good ones. And I'm going to start with I'm going to steal some of yours. Dog or cat?
Dog.
Ooh, that was tough. All right, farm or city?
Farm.
Okay. Thick or thin crust?
Thick crust. Chicago.
Chicago. Favorite medal?
Gold.
Okay. Who taught you to ride?
My mom.
Favorite goo Roctane flavor?
Jet blackberry.
Your motto?
We're all more capable than we know.
And your color?
Blue.
And the name of your bike?
Pinky.
All right. Woo. Okay. I feel like I know a lot more about you already. And I'm going to jump into the questions because there's a really cool, I did a little research on you, which is kind of amazing. It was kind of fun to look at your billions of medals. And yeah, of course you like golds because you have a lot of them. And I mean, 5 Paralympic medals. just like the list goes on. The list is like so long. It was pretty cool, but I was really intrigued by a story about Betsy and your dog Betsy. I know. And how you found cycling through your dog Betsy. So I want to know a little bit more about that story, because I feel like dogs are sort of, they know what they're more intuitive perhaps than we are. And I feel like there's like the Tao of dog, and like what would Diesel do is like, he'd go out and play, or he'd take a nap, or, and so I want to hear about Betsy and you learning to ride from your dog.
Well, I think our love for cattle dogs, another thing we might have in common. So I was hurt in 2002, and during that process of recovery, I was paired with a service dog. That was Betsy, the Wonder Dog. And initially, Betsy did a lot of things for me, like tasks that you might associate with service dogs. But then I think anybody who has a dog or an animal that they love will say, like, it's the intangible things and it's the other things that they do for us that change our lives so positively. And that's what Betsy did. She was a dog and had limitless energy. And there was no way for me to walk enough for her. And, playing fetch is fun, but I saw people mountain biking around Missoula, and I was like, well, maybe I can do that. And they're mountain biking with their dogs. And so I thought that would be the way to channel her energy into something that was fun and healthy for both of us. And that's really the reason I got to biking. And at first, Betsy was way more fit than me and would be up the trail, and I'd be like having to stop or walk up a hill. And she was patient, always willing to go, always eager. And that's the best adventure buddy. So Betsy changed my life again and again in positive.
So, I mean, I love that story that she basically got you out on a bike and taught you to ride, and you got faster so you could keep up with her. And like, so how was it? Like, did anyone teach you? Did you find friends, or like, how did you're just like, I'm just going to buy a bike and figure it out on my own?
Mostly that.
Yeah.
I think it's always hard to ask for help. And I went from being a capable, very able-bodied collegiate tennis player, and then going from that to laying in a hospital bed being told you never walk again. And so I, at first, didn't want to be known as having an impairment. I wanted to wear pants all the time. I didn't want to walk with a limp. I didn't want to know anything about adaptive sports. I just wanted to be as good as the people who are here. And at that time, Lindsay Corbin, she's the US's top Ironman triathlete, lived here, and some other pro triathletes and pro cyclists. Andy Schultz is also, or Sam Schultz is, well, Andy's his brother, but Sam Schultz, the Olympian, lives here. And I just wanted to keep up with the people that I admired. And so I just thought, I'm just, stubbornness, it'll get me somewhere. And it did. And I ended up making a community because of that. But more the question is, I didn't want to be last. I didn't want people waiting for me. Mm-hmm. That's still the case. So Betsy, I was okay making Betsy wait for me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And you're so not last. I mean, I don't know, you learned to ride, and then you just really, it sounds like the sport just really took off for you, and you just took your tennis athletics and just transferred it over to another sport and friggin' continue to crush it, in road cycling and cycling, and now gravel. I mean, so many medals, so many things. And, with the Team USA, I'm like, what's it like, right coming off the Olympics? I'm sure everyone's been watching the Olympics. It's so motivating. So what's it like to wear a Team USA jersey and to like put that on and walk in and compete? Can you explain that?
I mean, you have a few national and world championships under your belt. You know what it's like to hear the national anthem. But I think a lot of people can resonate with that. Like, we're kiddos and we watch the games and we're like, oh, I'm going to be in the next like Bonnie Blair or Flojo, or, people are looking like, I want to be Simone Biles now, or, on and on. People can aspire to that level of athleticism or joy or fun, all of those things. And so I wanted to be Bonnie Blair. But then I wanted to be Martina Hingis, tennis. But that was not the case for me. As soon as you get to college, you kind of realize like, I'm not as good as I thought I was. And the ship has sailed. And then at 19, while I was in college, again, I still wasn't in a position to, pursue Paralympic sport. I was actually pursuing my wilderness EMT. And in that avalanche course, I saw a video of Sam Cavanaugh, who lost his leg in an avalanche south of Missoula, outside Bozeman. And he was racing for the US national team. And so it wasn't until I saw somebody that kind of reflected something similar to me that I was like, oh, wait, I can do that. Maybe I can try that. And during that time, I started racing Xterra triathlon, and then I did 24-hour mountain biking racing, and I met Sam at a 24-hour race. It's the one time I beat Sam. I'm not going to let him forget that. I crushed him. I got third overall. Okay, I ripped the leg of a lot of people, but he got me in touch with the national team, and to get to wear the Stars and Stripes is incredibly humbling. It's a representation of a lot of things. While you might be the only person on the start line or crossing the finish line, it's the representation of all the people who supported you. And I think that I can only imagine the team that you've had behind you supporting you. And I've gotten to talk a little bit of your support staff. And it's while, you're the one person standing on the podium, you're not alone.
Does that weight feel really heavy, knowing that like a whole country is watching your performance and wanting you to do well and cheering for you? Is that different than just, going to a race where you can be somewhat incognito?
Yeah. Okay, I'll answer this, but I have the same question for you because kind of leading off this, like I am motivated by fear, and I'm not necessarily proud of that. And people will have all of their different motivations. But initially it was fear. Like it can drive you to some pretty deep places. And
fear of what?
I didn't want to disappoint.
Okay.
I didn't want to be a failure. It almost makes me cry. It's like, I didn't want to disappoint myself. Like, I just want to be good enough. And so I needed to win.
Yeah.
And, but I don't necessarily feel as much fear anymore. And in many ways, like I think back then, the national team is really hard. And there's not a lot of money in cycling. I think we'll all know that. There's not a lot of resources in women's sport, let alone Paralympic or para or adaptive sport. And we're all fighting for the same resources, the same attention. And so by succeeding, I got to continue pursuing my dream. So I was afraid that if I didn't win, like, oh, well, that stipend that I got from the national team, that goes away, or the health insurance. Well, it is really not good health insurance. National team, it goes away. And so, and then also like all the sacrifices that the people were doing for me, like I would waste them. So those were the fearful things I had. And, I also believed one of my greatest competitors, who was from Australia, I envisioned that she was a shark. And so that was a great motivation to get up the hill ahead of her, is because that great white is coming after me.
Did you visualize her like in your training rides? You're alone, you're in Montana, and you're like, was she right behind you?
100%. Oh yeah. I think we always have to think when you kind of live in a bubble, like a mountain bubble. I love the bubble that I live in. And a lot of the training that I end up doing is not really fun training that people want to go on. It's not just a ride. And so you have to like get yourself to go out there every day and to do stuff that's uncomfortable. And so, yeah, if it was like, I thought, her name's Sue, she's tremendously nice. Oh my gosh. But like, I had to imagine that she was a horrible person. For some reason, I needed that in my head, and that I needed to beat her every single day.
Sue the shark. Did you tell her that you envision her as a shark?
Oh yeah. And she sent me one of her jerseys. And so I have this like after she retired, and she's a PhD. She's brilliant. Has 2 dogs, dog lover. She'd fit right in. She's amazing. But Yeah. I mean, what motivates you? Like when you go out there, because like you've been doing this for a couple years now. So how do you keep the fire lit?
Yeah, I think you touched on something really interesting that we're all evolving, and hopefully we're lifelong athletes. And what motivated me, 20 years ago, versus what motivates me now, it's different. I'm not any less motivated, but yeah, for sure, there was definitely a period, early on where you're scrapping for every win because that means hopefully a sponsorship renewal. And as well as I do, you can have a season where you've won every race you've done, you've completed your job to like the highest level possible and still lose a sponsorship.
Yeah.
So it's not, performance doesn't actually equal keeping your job. And so there was definitely a period of time where it's like, I have to win if I want to eat, and I want to have health insurance, and I want to keep doing what I love doing. And there were definitely some pressures, but that has shifted and changed as you start to gather medals or you gather accolades. I realized that those are launching pads for other things, and those are springboards. They weren't their own win in its own right. They're springboards to other things. And so, yeah, motivation was fear or lack of confidence or lack of personal worth when I was younger. And sometimes there's still a little bit of that, but now it's more my motivation is curiosity and exploration. And I want to go somewhere, or can I ride the Iditarod Trail in Alaska? Like, is it possible? Could I do it? And so a lot of my motivation is sort of coming full circle of like, I was, the little kid, and we grew up in very similar. I grew up in Downers Grove, Illinois, right next to Hinsdale. I don't know if you knew that.
I think I'd heard that once, but
Yeah, like we grew up like 10 minutes from each other, and yeah, 10 minutes. And I was that kid in the backyard, like wanted to camp out and wanted to like play in the dirt and kind of see what was around the next corner. And I feel like that's more, my motivation is more pure now. And I've gone back to like that kid who just kind of wants to see, like, is this possible? And I am motivated by performances and by goals that I set, but the goal is just, I've been reading a lot about motivation. Stephen Kotler has this amazing book called The Art of Impossible, and it's all about the brain chemistry and what actually happens in your brain when you're scared, when you're motivated, when you're whatever, and we all have what I call this motivation menu. You got to have a pretty big menu, because sometimes you're internally motivated, sometimes you're externally motivated, sometimes you need both, sometimes you need a friend to like sign up, sometimes you need an event to keep you accountable. I love having a coach because it keeps me accountable, but ultimately you've got that whole menu, but ultimately in your heart, you have to want to do what you're doing because it feels good and because there's something intrinsic in you. And so yeah, the motivation menu shifts around. It's not as much now by fear as it is by other things. So that was a long answer.
I love it because it kind of like leads into this other question that I've had kind of stewing for you. Like, what is your relationship to pain?
Pain, yeah, that's funny. My nickname is Queen of Pain. I did not dub myself that. And the question's really, and like people say, oh, you just like to hurt yourself. Like, I don't know. And it's like, no, what it is that really hard things are a gateway to sort of to understanding. And for me, working really hard physically, using my physical body and depleting it is kind of a way that I access my brain and my heart. And, you did 24-hour racing, like the middle of the night at 2 a.m., your body's done. It's done. It's exhausted. You're running on fumes, but you sort of go into a vision quest sort of place. You go to another place when your body is physically really super depleted. And so for me, pain is a teacher, because it's where I go to learn about myself, to find clarity, to understand. And I get the question all the time of like, why do you do these super long, hard things? And that is the access point that I've found to understand myself and the world. And I've started calling it dirt dharma, a little bit of like dharma is sort of like in Eastern philosophy, like your path, your way, like the right way of being. And I find my dharma when I'm on the dirt. And so your rapid fire question of like dirt or pavement, it's like dirt. But yeah, the pain is not because I like to feel pain or I want to be that, but on the other side of that is actually a doorway into an understanding and something different. And I'm pretty sure you can relate to that.
I think so. So I outside the bike, I have my doctorate in physical therapy. And so there's a huge part of that side of it is working with chronic pain or the neuroscience of pain science is kind of what we call it. And as the endurance side of my head, like, yeah, I've really developed this enjoyment in being uncomfortable. And I'll find solace in that, being like, I can do stuff that's really uncomfortable. Often when I raced in the Paralympics, I would always psych myself up by saying, I want it to be hot. I want it to be steep. I want it to be raining. I want it to be cold. I want it to be scary. I want it to be hard, because I know that I can go that 1 inch, foot, meter, mile further into that pain than somebody else. And I often called it like the pain is the reward, because I know as soon as I get there, it's what I've been searching for is I find it. And then, try and understand, like, I don't think that it's like a masochistic quest.
No, it's not masochistic. And you made a really good point with your work with physical therapy. I mean, we're all going to go through pain in our lives of an accident or chronic injury, or our family will die. It's part of life. And my friend Travis Macy, who wrote a book called The Endurance Mindset, or the Ultra Mindset, is that by choosing hard things and electively going to that place, we actually learn the tools for when life is going to deal that to us unchosen. And so I believe that sport is a really great way to train our mind to deal with the pain and the suffering and the hardship that is inevitably going to come for all of us. But we're more practiced at it if we go there a little more often on the bike.
Yeah, the wiring, the path is already lit. I 100% agree. I love it. I mean, you've done what Unbound, formerly known as DK, like you've been there a few times, and that's not an easy course. Like, the Iditarod, I mean, I swear, like Google Rebecca Rusch, I mean, the Wikipedia page is concise and your resume is dense. It's really always humbling when, like, you crushed Leadville. P.S. So my first time to Leadville is this weekend. What do I do?
Oh, you're racing Leadville.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you been on the course before?
No.
Perfect. My first time, I'd never seen the course. I didn't get there early. I didn't acclimatize. I had no idea what I was doing. And it went great and I won it. So you'll be fine. I'll give you some tips for Leadville. I mean, obviously it starts above 10,000 feet. And so it's very unique in that you can't go too hard early on, or you just will never, ever recover and come back from that. And it's hard to do, but starting a little more conservatively is sometimes a good advice there. And I had one guy, it was really funny. One year as soon as I crossed the finish line, this guy who was right behind me, I had won the event again. I won it 4 times. And I think this was my 3rd win. And I crossed the finish line and he finished right after me. And he said, I gotta ask you, like, why do you start so slowly? And I just looked at him and I said, why do you finish so slowly? Because he was behind me. And so, my advice for Leadville is not to burn all your matches in the first half hour. And I've never been in the lead of all 4 of my wins. I've never been in the lead from the beginning. It takes till about mile 40, mile 50. And there's some massive big climbs. So I'd say not starting too fast And then also focusing on what I call the spaces in between. And so everyone talks about Columbine, power line. You can only climb those as fast as you can climb them. And the extra matches you might burn to get up the hill 30 seconds faster isn't worth it at that altitude. But on the spaces in between where you can really make up time, and I feel like I've won the races, is in like the rollers and the flats and like pedaling downhill, and using the places where most people like get up the hill and then they just want to stop and rest and stop pedaling and be like, oh my gosh. So the spaces in between, I think, is where that race is won, not necessarily on the big named climbs.
I love that. I'm really excited to see where mountain biking goes, because this is, I think, the first year that Leadville is following your lead by including paracycling as a category. So we are the first class of athletes getting into that category. And I think, I don't know if I hope you do, you recognize what your influence on our sport, our community has been. And I remember watching your wins in Leadville, and I am going to Leadville in many ways because I like, oh, Rebecca Rusch did it, I want to do it. And I've tried 4 times. I mean, like, there's been a couple things, including COVID, that got in the way. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get to represent people of different abilities. There's going to be, I think, 8 athletes with physical impairments. And so like Lifetime is a huge organization, and like, because of you and me poking them in the side a bunch, you're changing cycling, and you're changing the endurance world, the shape, the what people see and reflect, see images of themselves reflected. And so I just want to make sure everybody knows how awesome you are, if they didn't already.
I mean, Meg, it's right back at you. You're doing the same thing. You're showing people what's possible. And if I can use my platform at Rebecca's Private Idaho or whatever I do, that's what I said earlier, is these medals that I've won, they're not for me. They're not about me. Initially, they were for me, but really they're for everybody else. They're a launch pad for me to be good and to use my influence so that more people are doing sport. Because I truly believe if we all did sport, we all rode a bike, the world would be in maybe a healthier place, individually and collectively. And so, yeah, congratulations on getting to Leadville, having a paracycling category there. We're going to have you out at RPI with our first ever paracycling category as well. And I'm just super excited to see the progression, and you've opened my eyes. The first year that you came to RPI was just like, whoa, this is awesome, and how fast you are, and how it's just like you said, you're just riding a bike like the rest of us, and you're riding a bike really fast. And you opened my eyes as well. And I know if I had an accident like you did, I would want to do the same thing. I would want to have the same opportunities and go shred and ride a bike and go ride trails. And so, yeah, like the fact that it's even taken this long, like, I don't know why it has, but you've opened a lot of people's eyes as well, just by being there and showing up with your smiling face and your friggin' fast bike. And like, yeah, you changed a lot of people's perception of what an athlete is, what an athlete looks like. Yeah, it's awesome. So thank you. Right back at you. And I mean, that's what we can hope for. People are like, why do you keep doing this stuff? Why do you do these things? It's because I love it, but it changes the world. It helps people. Other people find a bike and then they have a good time, and then they're happy. Everybody's happy. Yeah. It's like, not everybody has Betsy to teach them to ride. Betsy, the wonder dog,
Yeah, I come to believe that we're all more capable than we know. And it's not until like those really hard things that happen in our life do we recognize how strong and resilient we are. I mean, I think if in the beginning in your career, you're like, am I going to do the Iditarod? Heck no. But then you keep like building up your repertoire of skills, and all of a sudden, like, it's an attainable thing. And I mean, you can think of it in anything. No one thinks that they're going to survive a breakup, job loss. I'm sitting here kind of sweating a little bit thinking about, I've signed up for lead boat. So there's Leadville on Saturday and Steamboat Gravel on Sunday. And why do I choose these things? But I'm going to do the best I can. And if I'm able to cross both finish lines, mean, Yahtzee, like I'm definitely more capable than I thought I could. I also like to say, 2 legs too easy. So,
Yeah, I like that motto, 2 legs too easy. It's
yeah,
pretty awesome. So, well, you're going to be sitting there asking yourself on Saturday, Sunday, why? Why do I sign up for these things? Can you answer that? Why? Why did you sign up for both of them?
it's a bit of proof sounds too easy, but it's I like you, I choose these hard things because it's the opportunity for me to kind of go outside myself. Like when I'm riding my bike, those are the times I look forward to most, where it's like the most quiet and peaceful, where it's just me and my breath and cadence or the rhythm of the gravel, the road, what have you. Um, that is a Zen blissed out place. And when it gets really uncomfortable and hard, I always think, okay, 5 more seconds, 5 more seconds, 10 more seconds, 15 more seconds. And that was a skill I had when I time trialed. A 20K time trial is incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you go that far, and if you can like keep that effort and now just spread it out over 100 miles or more. But that same mentality of like, I can do 5 seconds, I can do 5 seconds. And that's a very easy thing to keep doing, keep doing, keep doing. I think Lael Wilcox taught me the saying, like, you can always quit later.
Yeah.
So
Dave Ween said something really kind of awesome. I heard him give a speech about Leadville, and he's like, and we taught some camps together, and he'd always tell the athletes, if you're going to quit, you have to quit at the top of the hill. It's like, because everyone wants to quit at the bottom of the hill, like, oh, it's too hard, I can't get up that hill. But once you get to the top, you're kind of like, oh, okay, now I'm at the top. So yeah, like delayed quitting is always it's a good strategy. One funny year of Leadville is like, I think it might have been my second or my third win. And I was like super motivated, and I'd already won it once before. And like, I thought I was in the lead. I was thought in the lead. And then I'm coming up to, crusting the last hill. You're on the pavement, you're almost done. And I like see in the distance, someone in pink kit with like long blonde hair. And I'm like, and all along, everybody being like, you're the first woman. And you don't really get much info in that event or any endurance events. You kind of like, I think I'm first, I don't know. And then I thought I was first. I'm all excited, and I see this pink person, and like I'm just trying to put in this like sprint to catch this person, and I didn't catch them, and I crossed the finish line like 20 seconds after, and it's a guy in a pink kit with long blonde hair. And I was just like, I'd like worked myself up into this whole frenzy because I thought I wasn't in the lead. I was in the lead, and then I wasn't in the lead. And so that last like 5 minutes was like the worst part of the ride ever. And I was so bummed at myself. And anyway, so yeah, I do like to chase people down too. I think that's a good one, having a little rabbit to chase.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I also think about too, like, I get to be there. I chose to be there.
Yeah.
The pain is temporary. It's super hard right now. And I also think somebody told me when I was doing adventure racing, which are long, multi-day, like week-long races where you don't sleep or anything. He said to me at the start of my first eco challenge, this friend of mine, he said, you can run across the hot coals or you can walk across them. Like, it's going to hurt either way. So the faster you go, the less amount of time it will hurt. And so I kind of think about it that way too.
Oh, I think the same thing. Like each pedal stroke, I am that much closer to the finish line. But then, when you get close to the finish line, you're like, oh man, I'm really not ready for this to be done. Can this yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. What do you sing in your head? Like, what are your songs that your go-tos?
Oh, like a nice Kate Perry. Like, I'm not going to sing it. You're not going to get me to sing.
No. I don't want you to sing.
Yeah. Something along the line, I had this mix when I used to race track a lot on the velodrome, and that was always like would kind of get me going and and so this is still the same soundtrack I listened from 2012, so it makes me sound really old.
Oh,
but
wow.
like a nice Kate Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? That probably is like the fireworks song is something that I can only makes me smile because it's kind of silly, and I'm not necessarily tell everybody. Apparently now I do tell everybody as I listen to Kate Perry, but that's probably the one that plays on repeat because there's only so many things your mind can think at that time.
That's so awesome. So you've got these big gravel goals this year. You've had tons of races this season. What else is on the kind of horizon for you as far as goals? And it doesn't have to be cycling, career goals, dog goals, anything?
Oh, that's such a broad question. Yeah, like this month is a really heavy bike month with lead boat, and then the following weekend is the last best ride up in Whitefish, Montana, which is like up there.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, which direction? Oh, it's over there, guys. And so pretty excited about that. And then Rebecca's Private Idaho, so trying to get rested up and prepared for that because I'm gonna do the Queen Stage race. And then after that, there's some time off. My puppy, because Betsy had to stop being Betsy a couple years ago. And so now I have Pax. He's another rancher's mix called an Idaho Shag, homage Idaho.
Wow.
And so helping him continue his journey of learning, because he'll be going to school to learn how to help me. Because I mean, yes, I can walk now, but it's never guaranteed. And so like last fall, I had a blood clot where I was on the couch for 6 weeks. So,
oh wow.
Anyway, yeah, like it's a really crazy thing to be able to do really big events or big races or big rides to go out my back door, but then like I can't walk in the morning, and that can go away anytime, and oftentimes walking hurts, and that's why I chose a bike, is because biking generally doesn't hurt me. Standing does. So it's I think why I asked why I do these things, it's like, it's to prove how able I am, because in a lot of ways I am impaired, I am disabled, and so it's to prove to myself and anybody else, like if she can do it, chances are if you want to do it, you can do it too. Whatever you thought you couldn't do, you probably can. So that's my goals, is to really help people through my, like, help myself, prove to myself just how much I can do, help other people learn how much they can do, whether that be through cycling or my new clinic as a physical therapist and coach, and help my dog live the dream.
You have a new clinic? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
And you're in Bozeman, right? Or no, Missoula. Yes, got it. Okay. How long have you been there?
Ooh, close to 20 years. I first came to school in 2021 or 2001. And then I've been to Seattle a few times, once for grad school. I worked at UW for a little bit, but I've always come back. Missoula it's got a bug.
Yeah. Why? What pulls you back there?
Oh, well, there's a old story that like Missoula is a hub of 5 valleys. So you can kind of see, like, up in there, guys, right there. It's in the heart of the mountains, and so all these mountain valleys come together. And it's been said that a lot of the energies flow down those valleys and follow the rivers, and it brings that into Missoula, and it becomes a really healing and a therapeutic place for people. And you'll find that people will come here and they get what they need, and then they move on to wherever that is. And apparently I still need it. This has been my home. Although when I came to RPI the first time, I definitely looked at real estate, because I was like, holy smokes, that is a special place of heaven, or slice of heaven that you live in.
Well, it's interesting you say that about the geography, because I was just telling somebody about this yesterday. Idaho, there's a lot of geothermal activity, and it is kind of the confluence of a bunch of different mountain ranges with, the Sawtooth and the Boulders and the Smokies, and they all sort of converge around Ketchum and around where we are. And so that's really cool what you say about, like, probably all the energies. There is a lot of energy here, and people have asked me the same, like, why are you in Idaho? And I've never been able to articulate it that well, but I think you're right. There's something special here with the energy and the way the earth is formed, and you stand in the middle of it and you kind of feel extra energized. So I think that there's something to be said about that, how we are connected to places that have a lot of energy from the earth like that.
So, like, I saw that you used to race whitewater. Like, were you a canoer or a kayaker or a boater? Or what kind of boater, I guess?
I was on the U.S. women's whitewater rafting team, and I also raced outrigger canoes internationally in the ocean. So and a little bit of kayaking. I did swim, well, riverboarded the Grand Canyon with 2 other women. That was one of my first really big expeditions I did in the winter. We basically a boogie board, a glorified boogie board, and did the Grand Canyon on that. It took a month, self-supported. So that was
How did you bring your stuff with you? Like, you've got a dry bag just kind of floating behind you?
We were towing another board that had like all our supplies. And when we get to the rapids, we would line or carry our supply board down to the end of the rapid, then walk back up, run the rapid. And then Julie had also done, she'd been burying food caches because she was a Grand Canyon guide for many years, like 2nd generation Grand Canyon guide. And so she'd been burying these ammo cans, like boxes, and had a little treasure map. And so, years later, when we finally got the approval to do the expedition, she had a map of, just tins of food and some random stuff. She'd forgotten what she put in there, but so yeah, we had supplies with us and then some food caches along the way, but we were pretty hungry most of the time and pretty cold. But that was a pretty cool expedition. I mean, but it's kind of funny because I've always been afraid of water. My mom can attest to that, is that I never wanted to go swimming as a kid. I was afraid to jump in the pool. Like, water has always scared me. And I also never liked mountain biking. When I was doing adventure racing, it was my worst sport. Like, so it's kind of interesting of like, I've ended up putting myself in really scary situations in mediums that are not natural for me and don't come naturally, like cycling or whitewater. And I've learned a lot from that, but I didn't really put that together till just now of like, oh yeah, I never really liked water or cycling. And here I am.
I mean, that was one of my questions, like, why the bike? I mean, clearly you could have been a successful athlete and I think anything you chose. It's like, how did the bike become your emphasis?
The bike became my emphasis. I was doing multi-sport. So I was doing these adventure races that have like some cycling, but navigation and paddling and running and horse riding sometimes and all sorts of stuff. And when that sort of dried up, I had 1 year left in a Red Bull contract. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to get a real job now. And this was in my 30s. And they just said, well, you've got 1 more year, just find something to do. We're not going to take the money back. And so I went searching for, I don't feel like I'm excel at any one sport, but I knew I could go for a long time. Like, I could go for 5 days. And so the longest thing I could find at the time was 24-hour mountain bike racing. And I was like, 24 hours, that's super short. And I'm like, well, I'm really bad at riding a bike, but I can go for 24 hours. And so my now husband, he was doing 24-hour solo racing. And so I went to Moab with some girlfriends here from Idaho, and we went to do the 24 hours of Moab as a team. And we entered like expert division, and our team name was Catch 'em If You Can. And it was just like this fun girls trip. And like, literally I had to run all the technical sections of the course because I was a lousy cyclist. But I ended up having the fastest women's lap times of the whole race. And so I was like, and my husband, Greg, he was crewing for us. He's like, you should think about doing these solo. And I was like, yeah, 24 hours, not that. And as long as I could run the hard parts, that's fine. So I'd run the hard parts and I'd like hammer, but I had the endurance figured out. So I didn't have the sport figured out, but I had the endurance. And so the first 24-hour mountain bike race I did, which was in Spokane, round and round or something like that. And Greg crewed for me, and I ended up winning the race overall. Like, I beat all the men, I beat everybody. And so then that was like, okay, maybe I'll do this for 1 more year. Maybe I'll do this for another year. And that really launched, the whole second half of my professional sports career that has really taken off. And it was kind of this thing that, I don't know, it was like the worst thing I was a cyclist, but the best thing I is I had endurance, and I had that dialed. And so I combined my best and my worst things, and this is what happened.
No kidding. I'd say the bike's taking you places.
It is, and now it's become my main sort of tool, because it's such a great vehicle for exploration and seeing places and going further than you could on foot. And it's, I was a rock climber originally at heart. That was like my first love, first a runner, then a rock climber, but rock climbing was really my love, and I still love it. But the bike has become just the gateway, and a tool to be able to do so much and find community and connect with family. And it's become a career and all those things that you are experiencing right now too.
Yeah, what's it like to bring people to Rebecca's Private Idaho? I mean, you have a race named after you. Like, is that kind of like, what's it like?
It feels good to give back. I mean, I launched this event, this will be year number 9. And I launched this event for a few reasons. One, when I travel, people will be like, Iowa, where do you live? And I wanted to support my community. I wanted to support some cycling nonprofits that I cared about. But I didn't have a lot of money. As you said, like female cycling athletes don't make a lot of money. And I'm like, but I have a beautiful place and I know all these cool trails and things. And so I launched the event really to show people the backcountry and to show people a place in hopes that they would kind of find their own quest and push themselves physically, but also, when you experience a place and fall in love with it, you want to protect it and you want to take care of it. And so it was partially selfishly, I wanted to show people nature so that we would take care of it. And, my foundation has now been launched off this event, the Be Good Foundation. And so I don't think of the event as my event. I mean, it is, but I see my position as I have a responsibility to use the gifts I've been given and to use my platform to do good and to do more than just give myself a pat on the back. So it is kind of funny. Yeah, it's my race. I named it. I started it. I did the courses. It's really fun. But mostly I just want to invite people and have a big bike party and celebrate, people, purpose, place is what RPI is about. And my hope is that people come here, they get a little taste of that, of me, of my energy, of the energy here, and then they take that home and spread it around. So it's really exciting. I mean, I to see people finish Private Idaho and there's tears in their eyes and like they've had a big journey. That's as rewarding to me as any world championship or any more rewarding than anything I've done by myself.
100%. I know a lot of us are really excited to get to come share in your hometown, and those Galena trails are some of the most fun trails anywhere.
It's a pretty good spot. But what I love is people will go home and then they find their spot. And this is what's been a blessing with the pandemic and people staying home, is that everyone's finding their own little home trails. And, when I was developing the courses for Private Idaho, and even now I've lived here 20 years and there's stuff I've never ridden, and I was finding places that were like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know this was here. And I just did a ride a couple of days ago that like, I looked on a map and figured it out and was like, I wonder if this connects. And so I do want to encourage people, whether you can come to Idaho or Montana or not, there is some place in your backyard to go exploring on your bike, and it's there. You just have to like pull up your computer or a paper map and start dreaming, and then go out and check it out. And that's what I love about cycling is you really can find adventure anywhere, no matter where you live.
Yeah, what you said.
What she said. And people ask me what Be Good. I mean, it's all encompassing of being good to myself, the environment, to the world around me, to make a difference, to contribute. And I don't think I'm unique in having that kind of a priority, but I would say I love that you asked that question of your clients and your patients, because what I have found is that people don't articulate what they stand for, or they don't necessarily have a mission statement, a personal mission statement. And every business, every company will have a value and mission statement, but people don't do that for themselves. And I went through that exercise after I came back from riding Blood Road and the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Like, what do I stand for? And we all asked that question, but I kind of went through like this business exercise of writing down my personal, what I call my navigational handrails and basically my compass. What do I stand for? Where am I going? What is this all about? And I wrote all that down, and it's really helped guide me and that's where Be Good came from. And it's helped guide me when I'm kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, and none of us do. We don't have a trail map, but you can have navigational handrails and a compass and kind of a bearing at least.
Ooh.
So if anyone listening to our conversation hasn't sort of gone through the exercise of writing down what you stand for and your priorities and how you're going to get there, it's definitely a worthy exercise to do.
I 100% agree. I think it's really hard to say what your priorities are, because all of a sudden it's like this, what sounds like an easy question, like it's a really short question, but all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, am I living my priorities? Am I making decisions that support that? Or am I I love it when people tell me I don't have time. Well, I ask you, like, well, what is your priority? Like, what will you make time for? What is it? And so how can I help people make themselves a priority in that list? And that's often what it is. It's way more meaningful, I think. And I love to ask it because it makes me question what my priorities are and if I'm living that.
Yeah. And they change. The answer is probably going to change, maybe from week to week, month to month, year to year. I do find a lot of people when they say, I don't have time, and I do the same, we end up prioritizing others and other things before ourselves, and we leave ourselves last, which is kind of like the reverse. But if you put yourself first, you're actually going to do better at your job and that thing and your family and the other. You're going to show up a little more prepared if you put yourself first. But it feels selfish in the moment to be like, I'm going to go for a ride, but you're going to come back like a better version of yourself instead of being grumpy and, being all crabby around the people and putting off bad energy. You're going to end up putting off good energy for everyone around you.
100% agree. Like how did you build your support system so that you could live your priorities? Like who's a part of that for you?
I'm still working on how to build the support system, but really for me, I mean, my husband, Greg, is my rock, and he and I, we've raced, I did a rod together. We've raced 24-hour racing together. He's a great cyclist and a great athlete, and we're sort of a very good complement to each other. So he's my guy. He's really helped me. My dogs, my garden, like it's the earth, the bike. But it's an ever-changing process of figuring out how to build a support system. I think during the pandemic, people have really, and me included, really crystallized the relationships that are important or the things where we want to spend our time the most. And some of the distraction has sort of maybe fallen away, hopefully for some of us to, one of my navigational handrails is less equals more, and that piling more and more things onto our plate. And that's something that I'm learning now. I have a lot of cool opportunities and things I want to do, but I can't do them all. And so learning to say no to some of them has been really a hard lesson.
Right. But probably empowering, right? Like being able to like say no to something is probably the most powerful thing you can do.
I think our next meeting needs to be with a deep dish Chicago style pizza. Can we do that?
Giordano's or Lou Malnati's?
Oh, Giordano's.
This is the first thing that we're gonna not ask.
Okay. Well, then let's go to Illuminati's, and then we'll just decide.
We'll get two pizzas, and then we can
Let's do a taste test. I love it. It's a deal. That's our next date.
I love it. Well, I'm sure you've got next projects to get onto. I gotta go. Somebody's got a new knee
Take care of some people
that I have to go help them move. So
Meg, it's been so fun to talk to you, get to know you.
It's a privilege. Thank you for paving the way for women in sport. the hard work that you've put forth is, a path that I'm following, and trying to also make the path a little more wider, beaten in for the people who follow me. So thanks for bushwhacking.
I don't mind bushwhacking anytime. Thanks for clearing the rest of the trail for everyone else coming up. You're awesome. Be good.
You too. Until next time. Until Idaho.
Yeah, I'll see you in Idaho.